Welcome back, everyone, to Social Dance Dynamics Book Club. I'm your host and the author of this book, Musa Starseed, and I'm so grateful that you're here continuing this journey with me. In our first session, if you haven't checked it out, we've explored where this whole story begins, the moment of awakening that led to the creation of the dynamic movement model. And this is chapter 1 of the book. Today, we're going to get into chapter 2. We're going to dive deeper. This is one of the most important chapters in this book because it introduces the heart of my framework, which is the dynamic movement model. And this book exists because I saw a gap in the world of social dance. Too often, we're taught steps without understanding the energy behind them and why, the feeling, the dynamics that makes movement truly alive, that makes connection happen. So I wrote this book to bridge that gap, to give dancers, facilitators, and movement lovers a language for what they already feel. So before we jump in, I want to bring attention to, if you haven't already joined our book club, our 1000 Readers Book Club, it's completely free to join. But if you'd like to go deeper and to support the movement, a donation of $50 or more makes you an official member. It actually makes you a lifetime member of the Social Dance Mastery community, which means you'll have access to all of our upcoming online courses, workshops, retreats, and exclusive content as we grow. So, this is a living, breathing movement community, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Now, what is the dynamic movement model? So, in chapter 2 of the book, we really dive deep into what the dynamic movement model is. The dynamic movement model is a universal system for understanding movement as energy. It helps us to recognize patterns, not just in our dance, but in our expression, our relationships, in our personal lives. It's used by movement instructors, facilitators, coaches, social dancers around the world to assess energetic balance, guide learning progress, and even design embodied curriculums. Now, I actually discovered the beginnings of this model during my time in Cuba. I was studying Afro Cuban dance and music when I realized there was a hidden architecture behind the way people moved. There were polarities, elemental forces, emotional charges, all working together in harmony. That's when I began mapping it out. And that map eventually became the dynamic movement model. So, the dynamic movement model can be used in four main ways. Now, the dynamic model can be used as a movement assessment tool, which basically helps to identify energetic tendencies and imbalances in how we move and connect. The dynamic movement model can be used as a growth trajectory map to track personal and artistic evolution over time. The dynamic movement model can be used as an embodied curriculum framework for designing classes and coaching experiences rooted in energy and awareness. The dynamic movement model, finally, can be used as a universal language of movement, a vocabulary that helps dancers, educators, and cultures communicate through motion. Think of it as both a mirror and a compass, right? Because it helps to see where you are and it also helps to show how you can grow. Now, the first aspect of the dynamic movement model, the first aspect is polarity dynamics. Now, let's look at this first core aspect. Polarity is about harmonizing opposing forces, the dance between leading and following, giving and receiving, action and stillness. Every dance, every relationship has polarity. Without it, there's no tension, no magnetism, no flow. That's why polarity is so important. In partner dance, especially, polarity shows up as the lead and the follow. But at a deeper level, it's not about gender or fixed roles, it's about energy. So when polarity is balanced, your dance feels effortless. You don't have to think about connection, you become the connection. When the polarity is off balance, or when there's something that's not efficient in the ratio of the polarity, you'll feel a resistance, right? And it's very visceral. You'll feel confusion, you'll feel a lack of chemistry. The dynamic movement model helps you to identify your natural polarity ratio and guides you to harmonize it. So your movement becomes magnetic and aligned. So, if you ever had problems dealing with the lead or the follow role, if you want to know how to become a better lead, if you want to know how to become a better follow, it's all about understanding polarity ratio, not only in our interpersonal relationships with us and other people, but also in our internal relationship with ourselves. How our yin and yang energy is flowing within ourselves will be a direct reflection of how it's going to flow in any type of dynamic that we have with our partner. So, this is why polarity is so important. Let's go to the next aspect of the dynamic movement model. The second aspect of the movement model is elemental movement. There are four natural energies that shape every dancer's expression according to the elemental movement. It's fire, water, air, and earth. And these are natural archetypes that we use and attribute to movement. Fire, let's talk about fire, right? Fire is movement that is passion, power, initiation, sharp, and direct. Water is movement that is emotion, adaptability, sensuality, flowing, and receptive. Air is movement that is formulaic, technical, light, and imaginative, conceptual. Earth is movement that is grounded, rhythmic, stable, rooted, and strong. So when you start to observe people, when you start to watch people move, you'll start to see this. If you can identify these different elemental archetypes of movement, you start to see them in people all around you. Each of us carries all four elements within us, but usually one or two really dominate to the surface of someone's movement. Now, learning to embody all four gives us a range, a mobility in a sense, the ability to shift from a fiery precision to a watery flow, from airy technicality to a earthy rhythm. This is all important to our ability to adapt when it comes to partner dynamics on and off the dance floor. When you start observing others through the elements, you'll begin to see movement like a language, a universal expression of energy. Let's move to the next aspect of the dynamic movement model. The next layer of the dynamic movement model is called movement charges. And this is an even more nuanced aspect of the elemental movement archetypes. This is where things get a little bit more precise and we actually have more agency in how we can respond with our movement. So, just to contextualize this, each element, right, fire, water, air, earth, can be expressed in three energetic modalities: positive, which is the active, expressive, and outward modalities; neutral, which is the balanced, centered, and adaptive modalities; and negative, which is the receptive, introspective, and inward modalities. Now, these are not value statements. It's not positive means good, negative means bad, neutral means indifferent. It's more of different ways that each element can present itself. For example, when we talk about fire, a good metaphor could be fire can present itself as a spark, a flame, or an ember, right? Water can present itself as, let's say, a wave, a a flow, or a crash. So each element can express itself in different ways, right? And these charges, they're like emotional filters. They're like different ways that we can respond and how energy moves through our body in that moment. So, for example, positive fire feels like leadership, charisma, and confidence. Negative fire feels like passion turned inwards, seductive, mysterious, magnetic. Neutral fire is balanced, self aware, power that's steady and composed. So we can do this for each element, and it gives us even more nuances as to how movement can be expressed so we can further understand things. And understanding our movement charge, it really helps us to regulate our energy. And we're able to regulate our energy, we're able to regulate any dynamic that we show up in. This affects how we show up in dynamics, how we connect in dynamics, and how we attract different kinds of dynamics. Now, let's get to the last main aspect of the dynamic movement model, which is movement signatures. So, when you combine elemental movement with movement charge, you get something truly special, which is called movement signatures. Movement signatures are 12 in total, each representing a unique energetic identity. If you think about it, each element has 3 charges, right? So there's 4 elements. That means it's going to be 12 charges in total. 12 specific fingerprinted movement signatures, right? That these signatures, they're like archetypes or a personal movement fingerprint, right? For example, a positive fire dancer might embody the warrior, while a negative water dancer expresses the alchemist. Each signature has its own rhythm, presence, and way of connecting with others. It has its own harmonies, disharmonies, compatibilities, incompatibilities, and all of its other traits that come with that specific movement signature. And remember that each movement signature is composed of a polarity, it's composed of an element, and it's composed of a charge. And this is what makes the signature of a specific type of movement. Recognizing our signature helps us to understand our energetic strengths and weaknesses, and it helps to know how to connect more harmoniously with different types of dancers, right? So, as you can see, um, the dynamic movement model weaves together 4 key aspects: polarity, elements, movement charges, and movement signatures. Together, they form they form a complete and integrated system for self-awareness through dance and movement. In this book, you'll see how each of these concepts unfolds through real client stories, dancers who experience transformation through awareness of their movement energy. You'll also find reflection prompts and embodiment practices that will help you to integrate these ideas into your own journey. So that's the journey we are on in this book. If you haven't yet, grab your copy of Social Dance Dynamics or order a signed copy directly from me to join the full 1000 Readers Book Club experience. Our next session will dive into chapter 3, which is the first aspect of the dynamic movement model, Polarity Dynamics. I'm so excited to get into this. This topic is very controversial, especially right now when it comes to masculine and feminine energy and a lot of the connotations that comes with that. But when we dive into this, we're going to go beyond theory. We're going to go beyond, the standard paradigm of how we usually think about it and explore how polarity lives inside of our body, the masculine and feminine energy within us, and how harmonizing that can transform our dynamics, our partnerships on and off the dance floor. So until then, stay connected, keep moving, and remember, dance is a universal language of energy and awareness. It's where artistry begins. I'm excited to see y'all in the next session of our book club for Social Dance Dynamics.